Hello to you. I do hope you're well. In this video, we're talking through 5 organisational habits for GCSE success. So we'll begin with a look at what organisation actually is and why it is so important. And then we will be talking through the 5 organisational habits, which you can implement into your daily routine so that you make the maximum progress possible in all of your subjects and achieve really great results in your GCSEs at the end of the course. So let's begin with a look at what organisation actually is. And if we were to put it into a couple of bullet points, we'd say that organisation is all about being prepared and meeting deadlines. It's about planning ahead and managing your time effectively. And then finally, it's all about staying consistent with your habits and routines. And by habits, I mean the things that you repeatedly do on a daily basis, because it is so important to remember that GCSEs are a marathon rather than a sprint. So all of the hard work that you are doing today is an investment for results day, and all of that hard work you are putting in terms of your classwork, homework and your revision will pay off for you when you open that envelope on results day at the end of year 11. And that's why it's really important to incorporate and implement these organizational habits now, because if we can implement them in our routines today, that will then pay off for you on results day, because these habits are all about helping you make the maximum progress possible in all of your subjects so you can then achieve the highest grades possible at the end of GCSEs. So if we talk a little bit more now about why organisation is so important, it helps you to stay on top of classwork, homework and revision. And remember, when you are studying for your GCSEs, you are studying for multiple subjects. So it is really important that we are keeping organised and that we are keeping on top of the different classwork, homework and revision that we need to do. It's also important because it means that you meet every deadline and that you're able to complete all tasks on time. Another reason is that when it gets to revision, your revision is much easier because your resources are easy to find and ready to use. One of our organisational habits is going to be about keeping a folder for each of your subjects. And so when you then get to doing your revision, everything is there ready for you in one place. So it makes your revision easier, and therefore it means that you will feel calm, confident and ready for GCSE success. So let's have a look at these 5 habits that will help us to work on our organisation and therefore achieve great results in our GCSEs. The first one we'll talk through is the 5-minute rule. We'll then look at top 3 tasks, writing things down, keeping a folder for each subject, and then finally the weekly reset. And as I say, let's begin with the 5-minute rule. And this is where you spend 5 minutes every evening getting ready for the next day. So when you get home from school, it's about then allocating 5 minutes of your time to actually checking your timetable for the next day, packing your bag based on which subjects you've got, and then making sure that any homework that will be due tomorrow has been completed. So it's all about making sure that you are prepared and that you've got everything ready for the next day. And it's such an easy thing to do, isn't it? It's only 5 minutes of your time, but it's a really valuable investment in the next morning and in the next day, because by doing this each evening, you are ensuring that the next morning will be calmer and easier because you're already prepared and your bag is already packed for the next day. So it's about keeping one step ahead and one day ahead in terms of getting everything prepared in advance. And that means that you're not going to be getting equipment or homework detentions because you've double checked the night before that you've packed your bag and you've completed all your homework. It also prevents any last minute stress or panic in the morning when you're trying to find things or you're worrying about whether you've done things, because you know you've sorted it all out and you've got it all prepared the night before. So how do we actually put this into practice? Well, At the start of your 5 minutes, make sure you check your timetable. And actually, timetables are the golden thread that runs through all of these habits. It is so important that you've printed your timetable off, you've put it on the wall at home, and you've also got a copy that you keep with you at all times, because your timetable is so important when it comes to keeping organized. And as I say, at the start of your 5 minutes, make sure you actually check your timetable for the next day. So have a look at what lessons you have got tomorrow. And then based on that, you can then pack your bag with the correct books and equipment that you will need. I would also then take a moment to double check that any homework that's due the next day has actually been completed, because we want to avoid you getting any homework detention. So make sure you've double checked that you have fully completed any homework that will be due the next day. You might also see, based on your timetable, that you've got a test in one or two of your subjects. So you could then spend a couple of minutes reading over your revision notes. So you might have a keywords test in RE, for example, on the theme A keywords. So you could then just spend a couple of minutes before you go to bed reading through the keywords and the definitions, so that you feel confident and prepared for that test. Let's have a look now at our next habit, which is the top 3 tasks. And this is, for me, the pillar of productivity, because this is about doing a to-do list every evening. So of course, we've just said that when you get in of an evening, you're going to spend 5 minutes preparing for the next day. But then you also, of course, want to make some use of the time you've got available for the rest of the day. So when you get in from school, it's so important that you spend a little bit of time resting and relaxing, make sure you've had something to eat, have a catch up with your friends and your family, but then it's time to get productive. So here's what I then want you to do. Write down 3 tasks that you are going to complete that evening, and then you can tick each one of them off once you have completed it. And with this, I would recommend that you have a mix of different tasks. So aim to do 1 piece of homework, 1 bit of revision, and then also 1 organizational task as well. So the 5-minute rule is going to be one of the 3 things on your to-do list, because of course we've just said it is so important that every evening you're packing your bag and you're getting yourself ready for the next day. So what I would suggest is that you then allocate time for each of the tasks on your to-do list. So don't just write down what it is you're going to do, but then actually specify how long you're going to spend on that. For example, 30 minutes. And then whilst you're completing your task, whilst you're working through your to-do list, make sure you are minimizing any distractions until they are completed. It's very satisfying once you've ticked off all of your tasks and you've completed your to-do list, and you can then go and enjoy the rest of your evening. So allocate that time to being productive and getting things done so that you can then enjoy the rest of your evening. So how do we put this into practice? Well, what I would do is I would write down my tasks as bullet points. And you might do that on a post-it note, you might do that in your diary, you might have a mini whiteboard that you can write them down on. Wherever you're writing them, make sure you write them down as bullet points, because we want them to be as clear and concise as possible. I would also add timing. So as I say, it's really important to specify how much time you're allocating to each of those tasks, because your time is precious and it's really valuable. So make sure you're really clear how long you're going to spend on each activity. For example, I might write down, right, tonight I'm going to do my maths homework and I'm going to allocate 30 minutes to doing that. I'm also going to revise for my RS theme A test. And again, I'm going to allocate 30 minutes to getting that done. I might actually then add how I'm going to do that revision as well. So I might say I'm going to make flashcards, or I'm going to do some retrieval practice. So, always be as clear as you can about what it is you need to do. And then my 3rd task of the evening might be to get my PE kit ready for the next day, for example. And I'm just going to spend 5 minutes on that, finding the different items and putting them all together. So this is how simple it is, but I promise you it is really, really effective, because as I say, it is a pillar of productivity. It gives you a set of tasks to focus on. And then it is really satisfying when you tick each one of them off. Now, when you are thinking of what tasks you're going to do each evening, it's really important to prioritize in terms of thinking about what is the most important thing I need to do, because of course, that's the one you want to start with. So again, thinking about the timetable as our golden thread, have a look at your timetable for the next day and think about, well, is there any homework due? Have I got a test coming up? Because you can then put them down on your to-do list for that evening. And then, of course, once you have completed everything on your to-do list, you can then spend the rest of your evening relaxing and resting, knowing that you've got everything you need to do has been done. Okay, let's have a look at our third habit now, shall we? And this is to write things down. It is so important that we are recording, and by that I just mean writing, any key dates, homework deadlines, and any other deadlines you've got in your diary. So make sure you get into the good habit of writing these things down. And again, it's about checking this daily and then ticking things off once they have been done. So if you have got homework that's due, you can then tick it off once you've done it and once you've submitted it as well. So you're always keeping track of the deadlines that you've got, and then you're ticking them off when they have been met. Now, my advice with this is that when you're writing things down, actually use a color coding system for different tasks. So if you're writing an exam date down, write that in one colour. And if you're writing a homework deadline down, write it in another colour. So let me show you how this works in practice. The key thing here is that you're writing down anything you need to remember, because remember, at GCSE level, you are studying for multiple different subjects. So you have got lots of different deadlines and important dates to remember. And research has shown that writing things down helps you to remember them. And writing them down in a centralized place is really helpful when you do have lots of different subjects and therefore lots of different deadlines, because you know that everything is going to be there in one place for you to quickly check and make sure you know what you've got to do and what deadlines are approaching. And I think it's really helpful as well to actually take those dates and deadlines out of your mind and put them down on paper, because we don't want to overwhelm your memory and overwhelm your mind, because of course we want to spend our mental capacity actually remembering the content so that we can then get the top results we can in our exams. So, you know, instead of trying to remember all of these different dates and deadlines in your mind, put them down on paper, because that then frees up your mental capacity to focus on your studying and your revising. So write down anything that you need to remember. For example, write down any homework deadlines that you've got, and you might decide I'm going to do that in red pen. So I might write down that maths homework is due on Wednesday, and I'll put that in my diary in the section for that day. So I know that on that day, my maths homework will be due, so I can plan my time in advance. And then you might also write down test and exam dates and do that in a blue pen. For example, if I know that I've got a Theme A test in RE on Friday, I'm going to write that down in my diary on Friday. So I know in advance when I'm looking back through my diary that I've got that test coming up. And then I can put revising for that on my to-do list for the Wednesday or Thursday evening. And then finally, anything else that you need to remember in terms of if you've got equipment you need to bring in, or as I've put here, if you've got to take your PE kit in the next day. So I would then maybe highlight that to make it really clear in my diary that I need to take that in. So as I've put there, highlight it in green, that I need my PE kit tomorrow. But the key takeaway here is that you're writing things down in a diary so that you've got everything you need to know written down in one place. And that means that you're never going to forget equipment, you're never going to forget homework, and you're never going to be surprised by a test that you've got in class, because you've written it down in your diary. And remember, you are checking and using your diary on a daily basis, because it is that centralized place where all of your key dates, deadlines and information have been written down. Let's have a look at our fourth organisational habit now, which is to have a folder for each of your subjects. So as I put here, it's about having a clearly labelled folder for each of your subjects. And it's completely up to you what kind of folder you have. You might get a ring binder, a popper wallet, or you might actually do it electronically and keep it on a USB stick. But whichever type of folder you do choose, the purpose is the same. And that purpose is to keep everything that you need for that subject in one place. As I've put here, it's about keeping resources for each subject in one place and then crucially using your folders daily throughout the course. So you're going to add to your folder for each subject every single week, month, and then ultimately over the 2 years. So then when you are revising for your final exams, everything you need for each subject is organised in one place. So you're not running around and panicking, thinking, where did I put that? Because you know it will be there waiting for you in your folder. So let's look at how we do this in practice. As I mentioned, it's completely up to you what kind of folder you do choose. For example, a ring binder, and you might like to get some plastic wallets to go with that, or a hole puncher, or you might get a popper wallet. It's whatever works for you. This is personal preference. And then whichever type of folder you do choose, the principle and the purpose remains the same. You want to include everything you need for a grade 9 within that one folder. So I would start with the specification and a list of keywords. So the specification sets out everything that you need to know for the exam, and that is printed, it's published by the exam board. So put that at the front of your folder because that is going to be a constant reminder of the topics that you need to know. And that can then serve as a really helpful revision checklist when it gets closer to your exams. And also have a list of the keywords there because, of course, they're going to be in the exam questions and they are going to be really important to know for securing your grade 9 in each subject. I would also be adding exam questions. So, for example, past papers, and alongside them, I'd be including model answers as well, so that you can have a read through of what a grade 9 answer for that subject actually looks like. Because, of course, we know that one of the most effective and high quality revision techniques available to us is doing past paper questions. So always have a list of them handy in your folder so that you can have a go at answering them as part of your ongoing revision. And then having that model answer in there as well just helps to remind you of what it is the examiner is looking for and what it is you need to be including in your written answers. I'd also include in there retrieval tests and any other revision resources you've got for that subject. And as I say, the idea with the folder is that you're going to add to it throughout the course. So then when you have done a mind map, for example, on a topic that you've studied, you can add that to your folder. So it is then there for you to look back on and use as part of your revision before the final exam. And then just finally bringing that all together, I would put in there any knowledge organisers that either you've made, your teacher's made, or you've downloaded off the internet, and also any extra reading that you've done as well. So, you know, if you have found something online that you've thought that's really helpful, that's helped me to understand that topic, or it's helped me to improve my exam technique, add that to your folder as well. Keep that safe because when it comes to your revision later on towards the end of year 11, that will be really valuable to look back on and read back through again. So by putting everything in one place, you are really helping yourself when it comes to your final revision later on towards the end of year 11. As I say, this is your grade 9 folder. It's going to be your Bible, if you like, for that subject in terms of the fact it contains everything you need to succeed in that subject. So yes, get those folders today and then start adding to them today as well. Let's have a look now at our final organisational habit, and it is to have a weekly reset every Sunday. So we began, didn't we, with the 5-minute rule, which is where every day you're taking 5 minutes to think ahead to the next day. And you are then planning and preparing for what's happening the next day. Well, the weekly reset is then where we spend 15 minutes once a week getting ready for the entire week ahead. So as I've put here, it means spending 15 minutes on a Sunday getting ready for the week ahead. It's a chance and an opportunity to tidy your desk, check upcoming dates, and make sure that you are prepared. So again, our golden thread today is your timetable, because it's a great chance to look at your timetable for the week ahead. You know, for example, you might have a 2-week timetable. So it's great to have a quick check of whether it's week A or week B, and therefore what subjects you've got coming up in the week ahead. It's also a great chance to reflect on the previous week as well. So to have a look back at what went well and what was achieved during the week before. And then, this is my favorite part of the weekly reset, to actually set new goals and objectives for the week ahead. For me, the reset is all about having a fresh start and then a renewed focus on achieving great things in your GCSEs. So, you know, it's a great ritual, I think, that brings the previous week to an end and then prepares you for the week ahead. And it's all done in 15 minutes. So it is not going to take too much time away from your weekend either. Let's have a look at this in practice then. As I've mentioned, it's about spending 15 minutes reflecting on the previous week and then preparing for the week ahead, which is why we call it a reset. So absolutely begin with a reflection on the previous week. Have a think about what went well and what you actually achieved. And then you can turn your attention to planning for the week ahead. So spend some time checking your timetable for the entire week and then actually planning your week. Start to think about what will your to-do list for each day look like. What is it you need to be prioritizing? What are the most important things coming up over the next 5 days? And then you can, using your timetable, decide on your priorities for the week and also set new goals for the week. So is there something that you want to be focusing on? Is there something that you want to work on this week? And you can then have that in mind for the week ahead. And then also very important on a Sunday is that you are packing your bag for Monday and that you're getting your uniform ready for the week ahead as well. So it's only 15 minutes, but it is a great investment in your week ahead. It's about making sure that the week ahead will be as productive and successful as possible because you are prepared for it. So they are our 5 organizational habits. I just thought we could bring everything to a close now with some final advice on organisation, which hopefully will tie everything together. I think it's really important to remember that organisation isn't about being perfect. It's about being prepared. With GCSEs, it's all about progress, not perfection. And the idea behind organisation is that it's helping you to be prepared. So don't put pressure on yourself to be 100% organised all of the time, because absolutely nobody is. But it's just about trying to get into that habit of being prepared for the next day so that you are ready to achieve your best in all of the subjects you are studying. Another piece of advice here is to stay consistent. So with GCSEs, as I mentioned at the start, it's all about seeing it as a marathon rather than a sprint. We know that cramming the night before an exam does not work. It's about that consistent effort over the entire 2-year course that will then pay off for you on results day. So I want you to apply this to organisation and know that having these small daily habits in place will lead to you achieving great results in your GCSEs. Another piece of advice is to remember that a few minutes of planning will save you hours of stress. And I think this is particularly important when we do get into revision and exam season at the end of year 11, but of course also during year 10 and year 11 when you're preparing for mock exams. By getting into that good habit of organisation early, that means that during those revision and exam times, you will feel a lot calmer, more confident, and you will feel more prepared because, for example, everything's in one place because it's all in your folder. And because you have got into that habit of taking 5 minutes every evening to prepare for the next day, you'll be able to keep going with that habit, and you'll feel really calm for each exam because you will have planned ahead, you'll have prepared in advance, and you will know that everything is ready, that you are prepared, and you just then need to wake up the next morning knowing your bag is packed, you've done your last minute check of your revision, and you're ready to achieve your best in each exam. And so my final piece of advice is to start today. We've looked at 5 habits. I would recommend that you choose one of them that you're going to work on this week. So pick one of the 5 habits, for example, the 5-minute rule or the weekly reset, and then actually implement that from today. And then over time, you can add in the other habits as well, so that by the time you are sitting your final exams, you are feeling calm, you're feeling confident, and you are feeling prepared to achieve grade 9s and great results in all of your subjects. So thank you for watching. I hope that's been helpful, and I wish you every success with your GCSEs.